Welcome to the On Stage podcast, where we interview musicians and members of the entertainment community. And you're doing well?
I am, yep. Just been plugging along. Just went back into the studio on Sunday to start another album. So,
Oh, good.
yep.
Well, everyone, as you hear from this wonderful lady on the platform, her name is Lady Miranda Rain, but she goes by Lady Miranda, and she's a multi-award-winning, multi-genre singer-songwriter. And she won Single of the Year for your song Game of Love, which we're going to talk about.
Yep.
That was last year, of course. And for 2023, through the International Singer-Songwriter Association, you have always had a passion for writing and began writing poetry in your childhood. Wow. You
Yeah.
officially became a songwriter in 2009. And as a vocalist, everyone, Lady Miranda has been a lead, supporting, and guest singer in local bands around the Seattle area. And while Lady Miranda is known for her smooth vocals and ability to hit high notes, she is no stranger to rap music. Wow, I heard this one rap song about an hour ago. I'm like, wow, she's a rapper too. I want to talk about that one. And so she's considered to be, with her smooth vocals and ability to hit high notes, she's no stranger to rap music, which I had told you before, has written several rap songs with her soulful Latina flair. So, Lady Miranda, pleased to meet you. Welcome to the Onstage Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. Whatever made you want to get into music?
Oh, I've always loved music. I was that infant that wouldn't go to sleep unless you put me by a speaker. So I feel like it was kind of meant for me in that way. But I used to sing in my room all the time to my toys, and then I got involved in choir, and then as I get older, I had some friends that kind of forced me to go out to like open mics and things like that and shoved a microphone in my face, and it kind of took off from there. I had a lot of stage fright until my friends started making me go sing. I sang from my seat, I think probably the first few times, and then they were like, okay, you're done singing from your seat. So, it's just that I've always loved singing, and it's something that I've always just done throughout my life.
So how do you think your early life experiences shaped your aspirations, career choices?
I think that my mom used to listen to everything, many different genres, and what she didn't listen to, my aunt listened to. So, I got everything from like disco to R&B to pop to classic rock from my mom, and then I got more of the other kind of rock forms from my aunt, where she introduced me to like Def Leppard and Bon Jovi and Metallica and all those sorts of things. And so I feel like I've always been surrounded by a lot of music growing up and different genres. And so as I started to get into my own journey, it was too difficult for me to pick a genre. But I also found that what worked best for me was mixing genres. And so I've continued to do that. And, now I'm nominated for Artist of the Year for multi-genre through the Josie Awards for this year. And so that just tells me I made the right choice.
Well, so what do you think were the influential people or mentors who guided you in this direction to the early stages of your journey?
I would say I have a lot of musical influence just from music that I listen to. But as far as like people that have been really guiding and supportive, I had this thing that I really wanted to do on my bucket list, and that was to create an album. And my producer, I've known him for a number of years. And granted, prior to this, I had recorded with a producer in Nashville, and I had released some singles. And that was a good learning experience. But I needed a producer that was closer to home. So I was friends with this guy, and I found out he produced music, and I said, hey, I really want to do this album. And we kind of talked about it. I had all these songs written, and, he really believed in my ability to do it and really believed in my project. And we got in the studio, and it was just, we have such a really good working relationship that I've worked with him for a couple of years now. We've done a couple of albums together, and I think he believed in my first album a little more than I did, and that just kind of gave me that push. And then once I got nominated for awards, that just kind of solidified for me that I was moving in the right direction and that this was something that I was really passionate about.
Yeah, so passionate. I mean, all your music's found on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Pandora, Tidal, Apple Music, Amazon Conducting Chaos, iHeart, and Deezer. Now, I want to ask you about your songwriting, like your songwriting process. For instance, you talked about you're a rapper as well. Now, Heartbeat is one. I listened to that. Could you tell me, how did that come to be? How did you make that into the song it is today? For instance, you got lyrics, baby, whenever you need me, I will be right here with you from now until forever. Our hearts beat as one. How did all that come together?
Well, so that album is from Love Before Lies, and that album actually tells a story if you listen to it from start to finish. So we compiled it a specific kind of way. It basically tells a story of a relationship, and then it tells a story of what happens when that relationship ends. And so the very first song, Game of Love, which won the award with ISSA last year, is the first song, and that's the beginning of that relationship. When you meet that person and you have that curiosity of like, I wonder if this could go somewhere. And so the Heartbeat is one song was kind of the last song in that half of the album where it's like, you're ready to spend the rest of your life with that person. And then the second half of the album is like the terrible breakup half. So
That's the way it goes.
Yeah. And so that, the whole album tells a story if you listen to it, in succession from start to finish. So that's kind of that was the concept behind that. And I do pull a lot from my own experiences or, things that other people have experienced that they've told me about, or even just kind of imagining what it would be like to have a certain kind of experience. Because I feel like that's the best way to write songs, to put feeling into them based on experiences. Because it's hard to write about an experience that you've never had or never thought about.
Mm-hmm. It's true. Like, how can you write a breakup song if you've never broken up? How could you write a wedding song if you never had a wedding? Basically, it's the emotional imbalance and the thoughts and the things that happen in your personal experience that produce the lyrics that come out of the words from your heart and your mind that set it afire, so that people who hear this song will go, yes, I experienced that. Oh, yes, I just broken up with my boyfriend, girlfriend. Yes, I just got married, and it's beautiful. I know what to talk about. But basically, until you experience these things, like for instance, Hardest One, you can't really understand what's going on. And that's where the strength of the song comes in, which I like so much. Do you believe that there were any challenges or setbacks that in hindsight played a crucial role in your personal development?
I mean, I think we all have those moments. For me personally, yeah, I've had a lot of challenges in life. I'm autistic, and so I see the world differently than a lot of people do. And I'm pretty vocal about being autistic because being autistic, we're already a minority in that sense, but being an autistic person who's a musician is like, I don't like being a statistic. And that's one of the things that drives me, is that I want to show that people that are different can still do this and can still have success and still make a name for themselves or go after their dreams. And so just overcoming challenges like that and how people view what it's like to be an autistic person. And, and then of course my own traumas that come with being autistic and not understanding a lot of the world around me sometimes. It can be challenging, but I do put a lot of that into my music and put a lot of, what I think would be relatable to other people. And that's my goal with my music, is to put something out there that's personal to me, but also relatable to others.
I understand that, Miranda. I always thought I had Asperger's. People think it's funny I say Asperger's because I say Asperger's.
Yeah.
I know a lot of autistic musicians. One of them is David Byrne from the Talking Heads. He's got autism as well. Amadeus Mozart had autism,
He did, yeah.
and James Durbin has autism. So, to tell you the truth, Miranda, no matter whether you're autistic, you got Asperger's, which are two different spectrums, even Cody D, like he's blind, but he's got autism.
Mm.
But have you heard his voice?
Oh yeah, you don't need sight to sing.
Like, really? So, I want to understand whether Through My Eyes was based on autism, because it says that I try so hard, but it seems I'm always trying to fight these demons off. When I read that, I thought, are you talking about autism right there?
Actually, I wasn't. I wrote that song, I want to say it was, I can't remember if it was during COVID or right after. It might have been right after. And, as someone who is autistic, this is pretty common with autistic people. We tend to have a lot of anxiety and depression. And I know a lot of other people that have anxiety and depression that are not autistic. So, it's a common theme that I see among people that I know and people that I encounter. And so that song was basically about that depression and going through what someone who is feeling depressed goes through, where they've got these demons of depression, where they have these things that make them feel a certain kind of way, and they're trying to get beyond that, but they can't, they're struggling. And so that song was more about depression and how it can manifest and how we still try to shove that down and be there for other people and try to go about our daily lives, but we need the same level of support, and we're struggling within ourselves, and how oftentimes we don't speak about it, which is why, like in that particular song, I've got a line in there that says, I could be standing on the ledge looking over the edge, and it talks about how no one would know. And I think that's true for a lot of us when we're depressed, is that we don't open up, we don't talk about it, we don't ask for that help, we don't reach out. A lot of us clam up and shut down. And so that's what that song was about.
So I read verse 2. It's not the first time I've stared death in the face, trying hard to erase all the memories I can't replace. But it seems like all the time I'm just moving along, pretending that I'm so strong, even when it feels wrong and it's sad. What powerful lyrics. I can imagine what's going through the person's mind singing that. Like, what were you feeling? What were you going through when you were writing that?
I think I was already kind of on the other side of what I was going through when I wrote that. But, you don't forget when you go through stuff like that. And I think a lot of people that deal with depression, they do deal with suicidal ideation. Not that they would ever commit suicide, but, many people have suicidal ideation, and that's something that I don't think we talk about enough. Granted, a lot of suicidal ideation doesn't lead to suicide. Sometimes it does. And I think around the time I wrote that song, I knew several people that had committed suicide or wanted to kill themselves or wanted to, were in that realm of suicidal ideation. And I used to be a crisis counselor for the crisis text line. So I have talked to people off of that ledge. And I think one of the biggest things that people don't understand when people are having depression and suicidal ideation, we always say, if you're feeling like that, reach out. People don't understand that when you're feeling like that, you often can't reach out. You struggle to reach out. You're not going to reach out. And if you're really, truly at that point where you want to end your life, you're not going to tell anybody. You're just going to do it. And so this song was more of like putting something out there that was relatable in terms of depression and suicidal ideation, and the fact that we don't share that with people. It was meant to be real. It was meant to be deep. It was meant to be like, wow, this is intense.
It must be very difficult for you, Miranda, to deal with stressful situations like that. Like, how do you deal with your mental health? Because anyone with this autism or autism spectrum, depending what side you're on, there's everything happening. You're you're a crisis person. People you know commit suicide. You got all this just coming in at you, and then you got anxiety. What do you do? How are you dealing with it?
Well, I can say that me personally, I've healed from a lot of my own trauma. I'm kind of on the other side of that now. But I did years and years of therapy, years and years of cognitive behavioral therapy just to try to understand the world around me, years of trauma therapy because I do have trauma. I do have adult trauma, I have childhood trauma. Like a lot of people, I've not had an easy life. And so I did have a lot of stuff that I had to work on, a lot of stuff that I had to get past and get over and heal from because as adults, it becomes our responsibility to do that. And I think that's where people really find it difficult is taking that action and healing from those things because it is hard and it is scary and it is a lot. And so now I'm more able to, I understand myself really well now. And so I know what things cause me anxiety and I do what I can to minimize those things. I know when my brain is lying to me because brains lie and they tell you things that aren't true. And so I recognize those moments in myself now and I can kind of talk myself down from that anxiety and be like, okay, this is what your brain's telling you, but that's not the reality. So, well, let's get back to the reality of things. And I've gotten better at kind of just separating myself a little more from certain things that were not good for me to be so attached to, and really learning how to say no and setting boundaries. And I knew that I didn't need therapy anymore when I had someone tell me, "You sound just like a therapist." And I was like, good, that means I learned something in therapy. And people don't like to talk about therapy, I mean, we're a little more open about it now, but back in the day, people would sweep that under the rug and be like, oh no, you can't talk about therapy because that means something's wrong with you. And that's a bad thing. And personally, I think everybody needs therapy at some point. And we should talk about it. There's nothing wrong with it, if that's what helps you get through whatever you need to get through.
I understand with my own personal trauma, even when I was a child, I had a good family, had good relationships with my parents. It was just others, but it didn't end up to the point where I wanted to commit suicide. I listened to a lot of music. I became a vocalist because of it. I know how to deal with my mental health. Podcasting, talking to wonderful people like you. Hopefully that not only that I hope to help you, but you will help me. But because we're not therapists, you might be a therapist, but I'm not, so I can't diagnose myself. But music is certainly a help. And my black cat, Hannah, she's definitely a help sometimes. But she's like my therapy cat.
Yeah.
And it's at October 31st. I get her every single day of the year. But yeah, and with you, with, forming the lyrics and the melodies in that soul and that heart of yours and showing the world, look what I can do, look at my talent. What sort of message do you want your fans and those listening to your music, what do you want them to take away from it?
I feel like music is subjective, right? So people often interpret lyrics differently. And so sometimes they interpret them the way they're meant to be interpreted, and sometimes they interpret them completely different than how I meant for them to interpret it, or how I wrote it, I should say. And for me, it's more about I'm telling my own stories and I'm sharing them with the world, or I'm telling my own experiences and sharing them with the world. And when people listen to my songs, I do want them to feel like it's something they can relate to, however they relate to it. I've had, like, on my newest album, someone thought Broken Man was about something completely different than what I actually wrote it about, but they related to it in their own way. And so I think that's kind of what I find really unique and fascinating, is that I can write it for one reason and someone relates to it for another. because that's how you reach more people. They relate to it for their own reasons. And so for me, it's more about sharing what I have inside of me with the world and letting them decide for themselves how they relate to it and what it does for them. You know, I'm sure there are many artists out there that have put out songs that they didn't think would touch people the way that they did. And so really it's just about me getting out what I have in me into the world and then letting other people decide for themselves what they like about it, if they like it, if they don't. You know, there's so many different sounds and music out there that, you know, each person is going to decide for themselves how they want to experience it. And I don't want to take away from their experience of how they relate to it. So I just kind of put it out there and let people decide how they relate to it and why. And if they find something that they feel is relatable to them, then I've done my job as a musician, putting lyrics out there. Because there are songs out there where the lyrics aren't really deep, aren't really about something, you know, passionate, aren't really. And I kind of pride myself on always putting something out there that has some depth to it. I'm a lyricist. I listen to songs. I pay attention to the lyrics and the story that's being told, because that's what gets me into a song. So that's kind of how I write my own music.
But who are you writing this music for? Yourself or for your audience?
I'm 100% writing it for myself. And I know that sounds selfish, but I think that by writing it for myself, I'm not overly focused on creating a certain type of music for a certain type of audience. It allows me to stay multi-genre, because if I were working on writing just for a specific audience, I'd have to choose. Does that make sense? I'd have to choose, like, okay, well, do I want to write only for rock people? Do I only want to write for older people? Do I only want to write for younger people? And I don't want to choose. I want my music to be relatable to all genres, to all ages, to all genders, to all people in whatever way that it can. And the only way that I know to do that is to write it for myself, because that's when it's most authentic.
Ryan, I remember you said you were a crisis counselor?
Right, I used to be, yeah.
Who's your crisis counselor?
Well, I have people I talk to. You know, I have friends that I can vent to if I really need it. I think now that I feel like I've gotten a better handle on who I am and how my brain works, and healed from the things that I've healed from, it's a lot easier for me to navigate stuff like that and know when I really need to talk to someone and when I don't. And, you know, I have a wonderful partner who I know I can vent to if I need to, and some, you know, a small circle of friends that I know I can trust to vent to if I need to. So I'm not, you know, I've chosen people carefully that I trust and that I know will be there to let me vent if I need to, that will encourage me to do what I need to do. And when I'm, you know, feeling kind of down about the music industry or about having to still work my day job rather than do music full time, I have a friend that I can talk to about that is very encouraging and really has been supportive. So yeah, I've got a group of people that I know I can go to when I need it. And I think that's important. And then of course I have my dog. I have a dog. I don't have a cat. I'm allergic to cats.
Crisis dog. Crisis dog. A
Crisis dog.
dog.
I talk to her all the time, and she just looks at me like, "Okay, Mom."
That is excellent. Good to hear that. So, which song speaks out most to you?
Oh, that's hard. I feel like that's hard. It's like choosing between your own kids.
Yeah.
People ask me that all the time. What's your favorite song that you've ever done? And I'm like, that's like asking me to choose between my children. That's really hard. I would say off of the Love Before Lies album, One by One definitely speaks to me, and that one has won a couple of awards. I think Unspoken speaks to me. It was one of the first songs I ever wrote, but waited to have produced until this album. And Mercy, I really like that song Mercy, and I think the reason I like it is because it sounds like such a pretty song, but if you listen to the words are very cutthroat. And I think off my newest album on Conducting Chaos, I like the edginess of Broken Man. And Take Me Away was written for a very special reason, so that song is special. I can't pick just one, I'm sorry.
Pretty cool, Miranda. You're
Never
so talented.
happen.
So talented. Now, talking about rap now, can you explain, like, Reckless? What sort of experience did you have? And those words, like, you were rapping so well. Let me ask you, how long did it take you to get that right? Eminem, the same, all rappers, but you were flawless.
You know, people are always surprised that I'm a rap artist, and I don't know if that's because I don't look like one, but rap was actually a very easy transition for me, and I think it's because I had been writing poetry for so long. Rap is essentially just poetry to a beat. And so I almost feel like rap music was an easier transition than anything else. And I'm really good with songwriting. I tend to be able to come up with songs pretty quickly if I catch a beat and I'm just like, they write themselves. I'll be in the car and a song will start writing itself. And then, of course, one of my friends is extremely jealous of that ability. But I honestly don't remember how long it took me to write Reckless.
I've got these thoughts in my mind, running circles, wasting time. Can't decipher wrong or right, like and dark, get twisted and fight. Sometimes it feels like I am blind for always trying to be so kind.
That was in 2019, but it wasn't that long. I don't think any of my rap songs have really taken me a super long time to write, just because it's so natural compared to the poetry that the cadence is just automatically kind of built in.
Gotta have cadence, definitely.
Yeah. I do practice to other rap artists, though, to maintain my cadence and to also learn how to speed up my own cadence. That way, if I want to write a rap song that's faster, I already have an idea how to do that and how the cadence needs to flow, because I practice other rap artists' music with the lyrics and learning the words and how they do it, just so that I can maintain a pace of cadence as I continue to write rap music.
What rapper do you look up to?
I would say my favorite female rap artist is Snow the Product. And a part of that, I think, is because she's very real in what she writes. She writes about real life. She writes about real stuff. I love that she raps in English and in Spanish. And, she's very straightforward and there's no fluff about her music. There's no gimmicks about her music. There's no need to feel like she has to be ultra feminine or rap about women only type things. Her songs aren't about, promiscuity or sexuality. She just raps about real stuff and her real experiences. And she's phenomenal. Like, I don't know if you've ever heard her rap music, but she is a phenomenal rap artist. So I practice to her songs a lot.
So what about Eminem?
I like his music. I do like his music. I was actually listening to a lot of the work that he had done with Pink recently. They've done several collaborations together, and I was listening to quite a few of them on YouTube. And I think that he's pretty popular, even among like people that I hear kind of singing rap songs just at like open mic and things like that. And I think that he did definitely break a lot of boundaries in the rap world, being male, but being Caucasian. And people always have this idea that, certain genders or certain races have had certain upbringings, or if you're educated that you must have grown up a certain kind of way, and that's not always true. And I think that people like Eminem, people like Snow the Product, people even like myself really kind of break those boundaries to show that no, we didn't have that life, we had a different life.
The emotion impact that you feel from others back then when you were a crisis counselor? It must have been so much for you to handle. So
it sometimes. I mean, I also worked in healthcare for a long time. I feel like I've always kind of had a caregiver role. Even now that I'm not working in healthcare or a crisis counselor anymore, I still find that I'm a lot of people's chosen soundboard. And so I feel like, I just must have this energy that people feel comfortable talking to me. And, people that know me know I'm not a gossip. I don't share what they share. It's not my place to share their stories. And so, I used to always wonder, like, why do people always choose me to talk to? And now I've just kind of accepted it because, the more work I did on myself, the more I started to see that being someone's chosen soundboard is probably one of the best compliments you can get. Because that means that people trust you enough to talk to you. That means people trust you enough to allow you into the parts of their lives that they don't let other people. That means people value what you have to say. And they know that you'll give them a safe space to listen, and they trust you to be that safe space. And so I tell people all the time, when they want to talk to me, I'm a safe space. And I've really kind of taken pride in being that safe space that's not judgmental, that's not going to try to fix everything, but just listen and only give advice if they really need it, or if they ask my opinion, because sometimes people just need to talk, and I do have friends that ask me, was I wrong? Could I have handled this differently? And I think they also understand that me being who I am, I have a different perspective. And so sometimes my own different perspective offers them a view of the world that they wouldn't have otherwise.
Well, what I didn't share with you that I should have is the fact that I am a Christian, and I believe that God has helped me through what I went through. What are your thoughts on God?
I wouldn't be here without God. I went through some very, very traumatic things, and the song Reckless came out of one of those very traumatic things. And there are moments in my life that I can't explain why I lived. I can't explain why I'm alive. And not because of my own hands, but because of the hands of others. And I can't explain how I escaped certain things. And so I've always had a very strong faith since I was a child. I sought that faith out and that relationship out myself when I was very young. It wasn't something that someone taught me about. It wasn't something that someone brought to me. I went and I sought it out and I learned about it. And I used to walk by myself to church. I used to walk by myself to Sunday school. I built that relationship from the ground up when I was 7. And I remember that very vividly. And so I think because of that unique experience of me seeking it out myself at such a young age, that my relationship with God looks different than what a lot of other people's might. I didn't, because I didn't have people telling me, oh, these are the rules that you have to follow. These are the things that you have to do to be a Christian. These are the things you have to do in the church. And so as I got older, when I found myself in that position of dealing with church politics, I was like, you know what? I can't deal with these church politics. I don't agree with these church politics. They're not what I feel God really is trying to say to us. And that's when I became I'm getting tongue-tied, non-denominational, because my whole thing is that I don't think God is trying to restrict us as much as some church politics are. And there are some messages that people, I think, have gotten their wires crossed. And so I feel more like I can maintain my own relationship with God better in a more personalized way, which is what I'd been doing from the beginning anyhow. So that's kind of how, that's kind of been my spiritual journey. I believe a lot of things, but I believe they all come from Him.
And reading the Bible has all the answers as well. That's you on that long, narrow path that leads to life. So now you're no longer a counselor. So how do you balance your work life with your passion for music?
Work is work. I clock in on time, I clock out on time. I don't bring, I work from home. So once my work is done, I put it away. It doesn't come out again until I have to be on work at the next, I work because I have to. I work to support my music, to be able to do the things that I'm passionate about. I am currently applying to master's programs at school because my goal with that is that once I get my master's degree, I can actually go and, potentially teach writing classes at university level.
Wow.
And
good for you.
Writing is something I'm passionate about. So
good for you.
I feel like if I could get that far, then at least me having to work, I'd be doing something that I'm passionate about and that I love, and it wouldn't just be a day job. It wouldn't just be another job, but it'd be another one of my passions, and I'd have that passion, but that would actually pay the bills. And then I'd have my music, which is my other passion, which unfortunately, as an independent artist, doesn't pay the bills. One of these days, hopefully, the music industry will get their act together so that we can all make money.
Yeah, you can't. Basically, artists can't really make money anymore for some reason. I mean, they just it's not like the 50s and 60s and 70s or especially the 80s. Remember when the 80s groups came out, some of them were released singles on 45s, and people would go out, and myself would go out and buy like the latest Duran Duran single,
right,
would sell 1.5 million copies, and they got all this money from the sale of the 45s. You can't do that anymore. Like Britney had over 1 billion streams of Toxic. How much does she get from that?
Oh, probably not very much.
Well, then you got people like Post Malone and a new guy named Livingston. All their music is streamed. They get billions and millions of streams. And it's like, but other indie artists, they're struggling, like 500 streams or 200 followers. And yet you got this person over here who's a rap artist, and it's kind of sad.
Yeah, I can tell you from thousands and thousands and thousands of streams, I've made $100. I've made more than that selling physical copies of my album. You know what I'm saying? But I have thousands and thousands of streams. I've literally made $100 off of streaming.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
so it is sad.
What do you think is your thoughts on
about my music?
What are your thoughts on the music industry right at the moment?
The music industry is hard. I reached a point at the end of last year where I had to take a step back, not from music, but from all of the chaos of the music industry, and really look at what's worth my time and energy and what's not. Because you see all of these accolades coming through, you see all of these people doing all of these things, and you feel pressure to keep up with all of that. And in a lot of ways, I have kept up with all of that. But then, there were some other awards and accolades and whatnot that came out. And some of these are self-nominated. Some of them are not self-nominated. But there's a lot of awards that charge people for nominations. And I get it. They've got to make money. They've got to, pay for their platforms or whatever.
Wow.
But I'm not rich, and I pay to get my music produced, and it's expensive to make albums. It's expensive to make music videos. It's expensive to, and so
you're not getting any of that back either.
Right. And so I had just had to look and stop and say, you know what? If other people can afford to do it, that's great for them. I can't. And so I had to kind of release myself from that pressure and say, okay, I don't want to deal with any, awards where I have to pay anything. If people want to nominate me for those, great, fantastic, whatever. And I had to talk to a few people and really come to terms with, like, stop trying to keep up with what everyone else is doing and just stay focused on what you're trying to do. Because that's how I started, was focused on what I was trying to do and not caring so much about what everyone else was doing. And then I got caught up in the whole, like, seeing what everyone else was doing and it started to get frustrating and overwhelming, and I felt a lot of pressure about it. And I talked to a couple of people. I really had to take a step back. I talked to a few other musicians that I trust, that I know would, be genuine in their answers. And then I took a step back and was like, okay, we're just going to stop paying attention to what everyone else is doing. And I kind of went back to what I was doing before and just focused on what I'm doing. And that works so much better for me that way, because it's difficult.
The same thing with actors and actresses. Like, they had the SAG and the after strike, and the nanny Fran Drescher is the president of SAG. And a lot of the things that they were fighting against was AI, like body scanning. So an actor can be in a movie but not themselves, an AI version. Right. So now AI is being used in the music industry, and you have I saw a video on, they were using this new AI software, AI music software called Suno.
Interesting.
And some of the stuff that came out of it, the guy was showing you some of the interesting genres, and he said, write me out a song where I fell in love with a dog and the dog kicked me out and blah, 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 blah. And it came up with these beautiful lyrics, and the song, the harmony was excellent. It was actually pretty good. And you would hear like an orchestra sort of symphony, all done by AI. And I'm like, there's a lot of these music artists, they'll have to either get a different job, and even their jobs are taken by AI. I wanted to talk about this 80s group called Tommy Two Tone.
Mm-hmm.
And, they had the song Jenny.
Yeah.
8675309.
I know the song.
Okay,
Great.
so the lead singer was Tommy Heath. And there was a show some years ago called Bands Reunited.
Mm-hmm.
So they were trying to reunite all the 80s bands 20, 30 years later.
Oh, fun.
And they wanted to, bring the Tommy Two Tone members back together. So they found Tommy Heath working in a tech company.
Oh, wow.
I know.
That's quite a difference.
And the same with the brothers Gore from Flock of Seagulls. They got back together. They played the one song, I Ran, I think. And the Flock of Seagulls decided, you know what? I like this. And today they're still playing. But
yeah,
the same, like, for instance, you may have to get a job, but even that job won't last because AI is going to take it over.
Yeah, I mean, I've someone asked me about that recently. I can't remember who, but I think, and this is just me kind of speaking in how I do my own music. The one thing that AI can't do is create experiences. So I think that if you write from your own personal experiences, that's going to keep you being able to do what you do. Because even though you can upload all kinds of things into AI, people are always having new experiences. So unless those people that are having those new experiences are uploading their experiences into AI is always going to be limited in that arena. AI can't reproduce human emotion. It can't reproduce certain human experiences. And so I think that's kind of where we're going to have to learn how to be different from what AI can do, is by continuing to create our music based off of our own human emotions and experiences. And even if AI can come up with certain human experiences, it can't come up with the details of every single human experience. Like, there's no way AI would be able to come up with the experience that I had that created that song Reckless. There's no way.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that's kind of where we're going to have to maintain what we do as musicians, is really sticking to telling our own personal stories. And I think that's going to be the best way that we're going to have to combat whatever AI is doing with music.
Yeah. And you have to keep sane as well. You just have to, you have a passion for music. You're multi-talented. You're an author, solo poet. I want to get into for your writing skills. You wrote a memoir, mm-hmm. and your book is called Calling Them by Name. Mm-hmm. Can you give a little bit of an idea of what's that about and what sort of heart that flowed from?
Yeah, it's what you call an epistolary memoir. And a lot of people are not familiar with that form of memoir. So when I was in college, I took a class called Writing as a Way of Healing. And it was a class that was basically designed around how to use writing as a form of healing from trauma. And then when I had to do my senior project, I have felt for many years that I needed to write my story, but I struggled to do it because a lot of people that have gone through trauma have fragmented memories. They're not chronological. And so for me, it was very difficult to put those memories in chronological order in order to write it in a way that would make sense, that would flow. So when I was researching, doing my senior project, I came across epistolary memoir format, which is essentially letters. So basically, you write letters and you can write them to anybody you want. You can write them to yourself, you can write them to strangers, you can write them to people you know, and so an epistolary memoir is a collection of letters that you've written that tell this story. So what I did when I wrote this book was I took the idea of epistolary memoir and I took what I'd learned from the class Writing as a Way of Healing and I combined it. And so Calling Them My Name is a book full of letters that I wrote to everybody that was involved in my trauma. And one of the things that we learned in the class Writing as a Way of Healing is that when you write, you don't just say, these are the things I felt, these are the things you did. You also have to say, this is what I learned from it. This is what I'm releasing. And, whether or not you've forgiven those things, because that's where the healing part comes in. Otherwise, you're just, saying what happened and pouring out your feelings and placing blame. You're not really coming full circle to the healing part of it. So when I wrote this memoir, all of my letters kind of end with, that I've released something or what I've learned from it, or, if I've forgiven someone, or, that kind of nature. And so it's a collection of these letters. I'm actually working on a second memoir, a second epistolary memoir, but these are going to be letters all to myself. From all of my stages of life. It's actually harder to write this one than the first one. Writing to yourself is harder.
I'm thinking of that song by Bee Gees, How Do You Mend a Broken Heart? We all have a broken heart through some sort of trauma, love trauma, relationship, breakup, death in the family, death of a spouse, whatever. I've experienced the death of my parents, and I know that May 29th will be my father's. He's been gone over 20 years. My mother's been gone over 30 years this year. So, but does it get any easier? Well, I could be in my 90s and still miss my parents. I mean, hopefully people will miss me when I'm gone, but just gonna live one day at a time, Miranda. Is life difficult for you to live?
No, not anymore. But I think that comes with growth, that comes with healing, that comes with learning how to set boundaries, that comes with learning who you are and actually liking who you are. One of the things that I had to learn how to undo in therapy was I had to learn how to stop masking. As an autistic person, especially as a female, I can only speak from a woman's perspective. I don't know what it's like to be a guy, but girls are always taught this is how girls behave. This is what girls do. This is what's proper to be a lady. And we're never told why. We're just always told this is what you're supposed to do as a girl. So we're conditioned in that way to mask and to be something that we're not always meant to be. And so I actually had to learn how to stop masking in order to figure out who I was, in order to be able to be authentic. And now that I've not been masking for so long and I've learned how to be who I am and be authentic about it and not be sorry about it, it's way harder for me to mask. It's way harder for me to pretend to be something I'm not. And I think that alone initially was hard. It initially made life hard because I did lose certain people. I did I did struggle with my relationship with others because they had to adjust to who I really was. But I think in the long run, it's made it easier. And now I'm at this point where the people in my life accept me exactly the way I am for who I am. And if they don't, I'm a lot better at saying, well, then you're not for me. This has taken me a long time to get here. But I'm finally at a place where I am happy. I am at peace. I am evolving into better relationships. I'm constantly growing and trying to outdo myself. I don't compete with anybody else. I only compete with myself. And I'm constantly trying to improve on who I am and what I can do and the things that I can learn, because I love to learn, you know. And I'm probably in one of the healthiest relationships I've ever been in, and things are going well to the point where sometimes I'm like, I don't want to blink.
Yeah. Am I dreaming? Pinch myself? Hey,
right. So I'm trying to
say to somebody at the bus stop, can you pinch me?
Yeah. So I'm trying to, kind of own that space and not feel so much like if I blink, something's going to happen. And just trying to embrace the fact that I'm now in this space and that I deserve to be here in this space.
When you say the only Lady Miranda, the only, so personal message there?
I hadn't really given it a whole lot of thought, but I think now that I'm thinking about it, there is only one of me. There might be other Mirandas out there, but we're all unique. And I've had people tell me before when they meet me and talk to me, like, I've never met anyone quite like you. And I think that comes from me just being unapologetically myself and being authentic and knowing the best way that I can communicate and the way I can relay that to others and just the way I see the world. I've had several people tell me that. And so I just feel like, I don't know what we would do if there were two of me, because I think that would be a bit much. And I'm pretty sure my producer would agree with me. but just that whole sense of just knowing that you're yourself and there's only one of you, and there can't be anyone that can be a copy.
Your producers and those that deal with putting your music up and all this, I guess I know they already know that you're autistic.
Mm-hmm.
Do they treat you any differently as a disabled person or someone who's mentally challenged, or do they just treat you as a normal, everyday person?
No, they don't treat me differently. I'm considered high-functioning autistic, and I use air quotes because all of us have areas where we struggle and we're not high-functioning in those areas, obviously. But, I was a gifted child, so a lot of autistic people are extremely smart. And so a lot of times people will tell me, like, I would have never guessed you were autistic. And my joke is always, hang around long enough, you'll start to see my quirks. But no, they don't treat me any differently. And that's what I mean by finding those people that just accept you for who you are and don't expect you to be different and don't want you to be different. They value the fact that you are different and that you do things differently and see things differently and have a different perspective. And I've had a lot of friends that have told me, like, we've learned so much from you about what it's like to be an autistic adult. We've learned so much from you about what it's like to be neurodivergent, and it's helped them to understand either someone else that they have in their life that's neurodivergent. I've had people reach out to me that are also autistic, where things that I've said or posted have helped them kind of come to terms with something that they're dealing with, or recognizing their own struggles in their own neurodivergencies. I've had strangers reach out to me and tell me that, people that have been on my friends list for a very short period of time. And so I think that's why I continue to be vocal about it, because even though I'm posting stuff like that for me, just so that people in my world can understand what I'm dealing with or what my life looks like, the more I do that and have people reach out to me and say, hey, I saw this thing you posted and it really resonated with me, the more I realize that I'm giving other people like me a voice. And that's important, because autistic people don't have a loud voice a lot of times. We don't have a lot of people that speak for us. And we have a lot of people that are not autistic that are trying to speak for us sometimes, and they don't do a very good job because they're not autistic. So I try to use my platform in a way that not only promotes my music and my own life and what I'm dealing with, but also gives voice to people that go through the same things because of their own neurodivergence. I didn't think I'd have that kind of an impact, but it does. You never know who's paying attention. You just never pay attention.
I know a lot of people have these cliques, like, you know, everyone who's the same type of person with the same type of attitude, they always hang out, the cliques, right? So I figure that you would hang out with those who have Asperger's or anything dealing with autism. You get along with them and you can help them. And I think that's kind of neat. And with your music, you not only reach the old, I don't want to say old, the elderly, the young, the old, those with and without these issues, if there are issues at all. You want your music to speak out to everyone. It doesn't heal them, but it does make them want to go on in their life, which is a good thing.
Well, I'm hoping that, you know, that I'm making a positive impact. And yeah, I do get along with other neurodivergent people, and I don't really hang around in cliques though. I feel like I'm good at befriending people in different circles. Like if you were to look at my group of friends, you'd be like, how did you pick these friends? Because none of them are alike. You know, I have different friend groups, and some of them have never crossed paths, and some of them are so polar opposite from each other. You know, I do have neurodivergent friends, and my partner's neurodivergent, and so that's an interesting dynamic in and of itself. So it's you know, but I've learned to relate more to more groups of people just through my own experiences and not being afraid to say, hey, this is who I am, and not being ashamed of that.
What do you think of visual artistry? So like painting and the different classic works.
I love art.
Da Vinci, places like that.
Art. I love all forms of art. I can't draw, but I do dabble in painting. I've done some acrylic painting, some watercolor painting, some other forms of art. I've painted some ceramics and things like that. But I love art in all of its forms. I love the theater, and I love comedy, and I love, you know, movies, and
nice.
Anything to do with creative art forms. I'm there for it. I can't do them all, but I love them all.
I know. I like Van Gogh. I like Picasso. I like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Miranda is. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just agreeing with you.
Is there a particular life lesson you learned that you would like to pass on to others?
Don't listen to all the noise. Don't worry about what everyone else is doing. Don't listen to what anybody else tells you what you should be doing. Because if I were to listen to that, I would not be a multi-genre artist. I've had so many people tell me you should pick a genre. You need to pick a genre. It's easier to promote you if you pick a genre. And I keep saying no. And because of that, I've won an award for hip hop and rap. I've won an award for best alternative song. The single of the year was for an R&B song, and now I'm nominated for artist of the year for multi-genre for, you know, an award. And just don't, if you feel within your gut that you are doing what you're supposed to be doing and that's how you want to do it, go with that, because nobody else has to live your life. Nobody else has to wake up and look in the mirror at you except for you, and you have to be happy with what you see in the mirror every morning. So don't listen to the noise. Don't listen to what everybody else tells you. You do you, because you're going to figure out the best path that works for you. Everyone else in the music industry or in whatever other industry can do things how they want to do it. Some people like to follow the leader and play by the rules, and I don't. I always make up my own rules. So my producer laughs at me because I will write a song and it'll be in a completely different format than what maybe most people would write. And he always tells me, only you would write a song like this. And, my response is always the same. I tell him, don't tell me what the rules are, because if I don't know what the rules are, I don't have to follow them. So that would be what I would say. Just, you know, tune everybody else out. They don't know.
Yeah, that's
We're
very
all
true.
winging it.
That's very true. Yeah, totally. That's awesome. So what's next for you? Do you have another album that you're working on?
Yes. We took a break. We took April off. I think I learned that taking a whole month off is too long for me, and next time I'll only take 2 weeks. So, because I really missed it.
It's hard to get back into things.
It wasn't hard. What was hard was the feeling afterward of like, I really love being in the studio. I love making music. And so it just, going back after taking such a long break kind of hit me hard of like, I wish I could do more of this and less of my day job. And so taking that long of a break was kind of more of a mental, not so great thing to do. We're working on another album. My last album was rock heavy. And so this album is going to be rap heavy. And we're just rocking and rolling. I've got an album cover in mind where I've got a photo shoot set up for that. And my goal is to throw out 2 EPs a year so that I'm constantly just putting new music out. I've got enough songs written for 2 albums right now.
Wow.
I get on writing kicks and I write and I write and I write and I write. And then I'm like, okay, let's go.
Looking forward to that. I hope maybe you can send me your first album in an autograph version. I love the autographed CDs. I've been collecting them for years. I love to listen to your music.
I'll do you one better. I'll send you my first and second album.
Please.
I have a couple of physical copies. I always reorder a few and try to keep some on hand for occasions like that. Yeah.
I'll send you my details so that you know.
That'd be great.
Is there a particular song on your 3rd or your 4th album, or the ones that you said you have enough for 2 albums? Is there a song that particularly stands out that you can't wait for the world to hear?
All of them. No, I'm just kidding. Yes, all of them. This 3rd album is a little special because there were 2 songs that were inspired, and so they're really special to me. And they are rap songs, but they were inspired by someone, and so
nice.
I'm excited to put those out.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. My producer's always, I always forewarn him. We're gonna push the envelope. We're gonna do some, beats we haven't done before. We don't sample. Everything's all original, custom done, and so we're always doing new things. And I'm always pushing him, just like he's always pushing me, and so every time we come up with a new album, we grow more. And he's been producing music a long time, and I still push his envelope. So,
wow, that's amazing. Well, you keep pushing like that, he's going to end up pushing your envelope.
That's okay.
Signing it and delivering it.
I'm ready. We bought a whole new keyboard early this year just to make new sounds, and I'm ready for it.
Amazing. Well, everyone, everything will be linked down below in the description. You can find her on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And all her music is on YouTube and Spotify and Deezer and all wonderful things. Thank you so much, Miranda, for joining us on the platform this evening. Really appreciate it. It's funny, but it's only 6:13 where you are, but it's totally dark here.
Yeah, it's not dark here yet. We're getting toward our summer hours, so it stays light a little longer.
Yeah.
I appreciate you having me.
You're very welcome. Meeting you, I loved it. I really appreciate meeting you, Miranda, and I hope that we can continue to
Thank you.
Speak and everything, and really appreciate that. Okay, everyone, thank you for joining us and listening to our rants and our raves and
you.